Hello, welcome to another battle report. This was a 3,000 point match of Warhammer Fantasy between my Empire army and Anthony from the Sustainable Center's Warriors of Chaos army. We rolled up the Blood and Glory scenario, and before we deployed, we had set up the table with terrain like so. The only caveats is that the rocky hills on those movable hills on the table would be impassable. The building would be impassable. Everything else is pretty much as it looks. Here you can see the armies after deployment. Anthony picked his side and deployed first, and then we alternated until we reached the armies like this. This was Blood and Glory, so remember that we're 9 inches away from the center line of the table instead of 12 on the utmost deployment, and then everything must be at least 9 inch from each board edge. Here's just a different perspective from the other end of the table. Here's a quick glance at Anthony's army list. I took a snapshot of both just so that anybody that was curious about the specifics of the army could look at this. If you want to pause it here to go over it, that's a good time to do it. I'm not going to stay too long. One minor note is that the Chimera does not have the Flaming Breath upgrade. We thought he did and went ahead as if he did, but he did not. I just am noticing that now, actually. So left to right, Anthony's army's got 5 Chaos Knights, Marcus Slanesh with ensorcelled weapons, the Hell Cannon, the Chimera. In the center, he has blocks of 18 Chaos Warriors, with halberd, hand weapon shield in the back in front of the war shrine, great weapon, and then 2 hand weapons. He's got one of each, weapon choice. The Nurgle BSB and Nurgle Sorcerer are in the unit with the yellow standard in the back in front of the war shrine. I know that in the army list, Anthony said that they were, some of them said like corn or whatever. That's not the case. They are actually just Mark of Nurgle. The entire all the Chaos Warriors and both characters, the Mark of Nurgle. And then on the right-hand side, he has another unit of 5 Knights, Marcus Slanesh with ensorcelled weapons, and 5 Chaos Hounds. Here's a quick glance at the army that I brought. Again, this is a good time to pause it if you're curious. Major changes from the army I've been taking. Well, one, it's 3,000 points, so I had to come up with some more stuff. So I dusted off a lot more state troops and took some detachments on the Greatswords block. The Greatswords are not being run in horde formation. Instead, they're just being run as a bus with 2 15-man detachments of infantry with them. So that gives me a total of, instead of having like about 40 models that were stubborn, now I'll have like 50 or 60, pardon me, like 60 stubborn infantry models, as long as the great swords and their little buddies stick around. I'm taking an artillery battery with a cannon and hellblaster and an engineer, and then I put the other cannon on the other side of the board so that I would have pretty decent coverage with both. The Celestial Hurricaneum's still here, the Steam Tank's still here. All of my characters, with the exception of the Battle Standard Bearer, pretty much got taken down in cost by a significant amount. I dropped the ward save off the Wizard Lord. I dropped the ward saves off of Warrior Priests. I stuck in another cheap captain. I dropped the Crown of Command from the Warrior Priest that goes in with the Knights and gave him a cheap magic weapon that causes fear. And I dropped the Steel Standard from the Knights, checking them down to like pretty much bare minimum. So I also added a unit of 10 handgunners, which did not really impress me this match. So that's about it. Moving on. From Anthony's left to the right side, we have the 5 pistolers with a musician, 10 handgunners, unit of 11 Inner Circle Knights, full command, with an attached Warrior Priest with the Enchanted Shield and the Shrieking Hammer. The Hellblaster Volley Gun Cannon with a Master Engineer battery on the top of the hill. The Celestial Hurricaneum deployed behind the first of the detachments. More central, I'm sorry this is a little blurry, but we've got the block of Great Swords with the Standard of Discipline, the BSB, and a Warrior Priest. Just mundane equipment on the Warrior Priest. Detachment of Swordsmen on the left. Detachment of Free Company Militia on the right. We have the block of 29 swordsmen with an attached captain with great weapon and full plate armor, and a level 4 wizard lord with the Lore of Heavens and a Dispel Scroll. As detachments to that block are 2 units of 5 skirmishing archers deployed like so, just as a little bit of bubble wrap. And then on the far right side, we've got another cannon, 4 Demigryph Knights with a musician, one of which I do not have, so he's being proxied by that empty chariot base. I'll probably pick up another because I think I like 4 more than 3. And then the steam tank. For my level 4, I rolled up the following spells: Ice Shard Blizzard, Harmonic Convergence, Curse of the Midnight Wind, and Chain Lightning. I believe I had Uranon's Thunderbolt and Wind Blast, I want to say, were like the extra spells that I got, and I swapped, or actually I think it was the other way around. I rolled doubles of Chain Lightning and I could swap. But anyway, I swapped one of them for Ice Shard Blizzard, and then I picked Curse of the Midnight Wind. So, Anthony's spells, he has Miasma of Pestilence, Curse of the Leper, Fleshy Abundance, and Plague Wind. As a quick summary, Miasma of Pestilence is a augment or hex, depending on who you cast it at. Actually, I think it's an augment that debuffs people that are in base contact with them. I think that's it. It's like the Great Unclean One ability from the old Demons of Chaos book. It reduces weapon skill and initiative. So, pretty good, extremely cheap to cast. Curse of the Leper is the flex spell, where it's an augment on your unit and a hex on the enemy units. It just reduces toughness. Very powerful. Fleshy Abundance is a 5-up regen that can be bubbled to all friendly units within 18 inches. Pretty cool. And Plague Wind is a magical vortex of toughness tests or suffer 1 wound with no armor save. Pretty nasty lineup. Vanguard movements. The Pistoliers move like so, and are in complete confidence that I'm going to go first, so they just turn their back on the enemy. Honestly, I don't remember if we did Vanguard moves correctly. I think I knew I was going to go first. We had already done the roll, but my goal with them was just to get them as quickly behind his lines anyway, so this is what I did with them. So here's the board at the beginning of turn 1. Empire wins the roll to go first, and we start Empire turn 1 now. The Pistoliers, you can see on the back, shimmy up to the far side on the other side of those Warhounds. The Demigryphs break out from behind the steam tank. The cannon and most of my battle line pretty much remains the same, although some of the Inner Circle Knights shimmy over and the Hurricanum moves up to support them. The Skirmishing Archers move in such a way that the Chimera can't complete a charge and assassinate my Wizard. Really, usually I just use those Skirmishing Archers as chaff and redirectors, so in the beginning I'm just trying to protect my really vulnerable characters from Anthony's Fast Mover. Here's just a shot to show that I had used 1 steam point out of 3 to angle myself towards Anthony's Chimera for shooting a cannon from the steam tank, since I don't really have enough points to move too far. In the magic phase, I roll up, I want to say like 8 or 9, I can't really remember. I use 2 dice to cast the Storm of Shemtek ability on the Celestial Hurricanum. It is, Anthony lets it go off. It is on target on this Warriors of Chaos block. Rolls up the Lightning Strike attack, which does like a Strength 6 hit and then a Strength 3 hit to everybody else. And actually kills a bunch, I think it kills like 5 warriors. It's extremely effective considering. So that was kind of cool to start off with. And then I cast Harmonic Convergence on one of my cannons. I'm not in range for any of the 24-inch spells in the Lore of Heaven, so I actually just kind of end the phase with dice still in my hand, which is always kind of awkward feeling. I feel like I should have taken more, I guess. But I put Harmonic Convergence on this cannon because it has a shot on the Hell Cannon, and I don't want to like roll a 1 to wound and lose it that way. And in the shooting phase, I fire the cannon. It hits the Hell Cannon. It does 6 wounds. Anthony fails his word save. Boom. Okay. That's really the only thing that I was seriously worried about if it ran around unchecked. Or, I shouldn't say ran around, but if it got to fire unchecked for the entire game, this thing could really put a hurting on my low armor blocks and remove the whole toughness holding the line type stuff that I had figured out for the Greatswords and their buddies. So killing this turn 1 is actually a pretty huge boon in my book. The Pistoliers open fire on the Hounds, kill 4 of them. Now, if you looked on the left-hand part of the picture, in between the Great Weapon Primer Black Warriors and the Corn Red, they're actually Nurgle with halberds, but they're red. You can see the Fleeing Dog. The Pistoliers are pretty accurate, actually. They kill 4 of the 5 dogs. They fail their panic check, flee directly through Anthony's entire line, provoking panic checks from everyone but the Slanesh Mark Knights. And we have like a little gasp for breath, but Anthony passes all of his panic checks after having to do some BSB rerolls. So, okay, that's pretty cool. That was the only thing I could really hope to do with the Pistoliers at this point. I mean, scoring a wound on his Knights is always kind of cool, but I needed to take away the number of targets that would be coming from my War Machine, so that's a pretty big success. And that's what the table looks like going into the bottom of turn 1, Warriors of Chaos turn 1. Anthony moves forward like so, that the Knights advance really aggressively towards my Inner Circle Knights and my right flank. The Hand Weapon Warriors and the Great Weapon Warriors just kind of go shoulder to shoulder and move forward. The Hand Weapon and Shield guys linger behind. The Chimera flies behind the Watchtower building in the center to take some cover from my Hellblaster volley gun and he's shooting and stuff like that. He'll break out next turn, and the Halberd Chaos Warriors just sort of advance. The Slaanesh Knights on the left-hand side are a little sheepish about going after 4 Demigryphs, so they just kind of hold tight. The Hound fails to rally, runs through, provokes more panic checks, but nobody really cares. Yeah, here's just a shot to show in greater detail the positioning of his backfield. And here's the Chaos Knights menacing my Inner Circle Knights. You can see my work in progress Warrior Priest, who I really should get around to painting his horse. During the magic phase, Anthony cast Miasma of Pestilence. Now that I'm reading it, I'm seeing that we did this wrong, because he thought it was a hex, and I didn't even read the card, honestly. I took a picture of it now, and now I'm feeling a little silly. But, yeah, he cast Miasma of Pestilence as if it was a hex on this unit, which doesn't matter, because he would have cast it on the guys that are sitting right in front of this unit, and not really have affected the outcome of the game in any way. We just need to actually learn to read our spells, I guess, because I didn't even notice this until, like, right now as I was narrating it. And then he casts Fleshly Abundance on the Great Weapon Warriors directly behind him. So there's a little bit of a punishment stack right here. You can see he's got the Slaaneshi Knights, who are not exactly a soft target. If anybody tells you Chaos Knights are easy, they're lying to you, because Chaos Knights are a huge pain in the butt. They're tough, and they're very resilient, and they put out a ton of Strength 5 attacks. So I have to get rid of them because they're sitting right in front of my lines, but if I use my Inner Circle Knights to do so, and I don't, for example, completely kill them, or I get a short overrun, or anything like that, I have this unit of Great Weapon dudes that are matched up perfectly with my heavy horse to just punish me on the flank. And even if even if it's not a incredibly devastating charge, I'm not going to get any wounds through his high armor, high toughness, and then a 5-up breach on top of it. So that's pretty much the plan that Anthony's setting in motion. Beginning of Empire turn 2, so this is the top of turn 2. Damn it, we're going to do it. So we declare the charge with the Inner Circle Knights. Anthony's not going to flee with his. He's not going to flee with the Chaos Knights. He's got a really good. He's got 2 units that can punish me on the flank. He's just gonna let that roll. So that's that. I pivot the Great Swords and the 2 detachments to kind of push towards that flank, because Anthony's now got 2 of his main infantry blocks and 1 of his heavy cavalry units over there. The archers kind of deploy in a staggered formation in front of the wizard and swordsman block. Just to, again, there's no way for Anthony to complete a charge with the Chimera without contacting one of my units. I guess now that I'm looking at it, maybe he could have tried to assassinate the captain on the far right-hand side of the swordsman block, but even if he had done so, he would have taken the captain, earned like 60 victory points or whatever it is for him, and then I would have beaten the Chimera through static combat res. So, yeah, okay, I'm reasonably pleased with this, although I could have done a better job deploying the skirmishers to screen my unit. So that's a lesson to take from this picture, I guess. And the Pistoliers zip around behind the Slaanesh-colored, but actually Nurgle hand weapon unit to pepper them with shots. On this flank, the steam tank generates some more points and saves 1 and uses them to move closer to the center, saving 1 to fire a cannonball. The Demigryph Knights advance right to the edge of that forest. I see no reason to go any further, take dangerous terrain checks, and I'm not exactly confident of making a charge on those Slaanesh Chaos Knights either. So the Demigryphs do the majority of the heavy lifting in the unit. Charging with them doesn't make a difference in any way. It would just be for the Strength 6 Lance attacks on the Riders. And, I'm never going to say no to Strength 6 attacks, but it's just not that big a deal, So that's that. During the magic phase, I get Harmonic Convergence off on the Knights. Harmonic Convergence is like the spell to get off on heavy cavalry. Anything that's got a 1-up armor save, because, you only take wounds on armor save rolls of 1, and then you reroll them with Harmonic Convergence. That's just awesome. I didn't really have the ability to get off the any of the battle prayers on the Warrior Priest this round because it was kind of a tight magic phase. In fact, for most of the game, I was only getting between like 4 to 6 dice. I think I had one round where it was 8 dice, and it was very, it wasn't like tough because I channeled and I had the Hurricane and all that kind of stuff. But if this had been like, say, just a generic army where I didn't have 3 channelers and the Hurricane I'm adding the power dice, there would have been like a lot of like 4 dice magic phases. So Harmonic Convergence is a good buff in this situation. I'm very happy about that. And then I throw the rest of my dice at Chain Lightning. I didn't really have anything else that really needed the augments, and I wasn't in range to get the Hex onto anything that I was really, that I was really concerned about in close combat this round. So I just threw a bunch of dice at Chain Lightning. I did not get it off irresistibly, but Anthony failed to dispel it. I started with the Chimera, rolled 1 Strength 6 hit, okay, which puts a wound on the Chimera as denoted by the little skull. It then passes the roll to jump to the corn-colored, but actually Nurgle Warriors. I'm sorry, Anthony's been running them as corn for a while, so like that just reflexively happens. Anyway, it bounces to them, and I roll another 1 Strength 6 hit, which is not what I had hoped for from Chain Lightning. It then jumps to the Nurgle Hand Weapon and Shield Warriors in the back and does 5 hits and 5 casualties, so that's pretty cool. It then jumps to the Great Weapon Warriors and only does a single hit and a single wound. Not cool. But it then jumps to the dual hand weapon guys and does 6 hits and does 6 casualties. So at this point, I'm thinking it's pretty much a extremely successful use of those power dice, and yeah, very happy with that. I think the wizard might have paid for himself just in Chaos Warrior blood right in this phase. So here's what the board looks like at the end of the magic phase going into the shooting phase, or this might actually be after shooting. I can't remember. Yeah, okay, that would have been after shooting. All right, so the Chaos Knights cause 2 casualties to the Inner Circle Knights. The Inner Circle Knights obliterate the Chaos Knights. I believe they leave just 1 model left, fails his break test, flees, gets run down. It's kind of a beefy roll. Not super huge, but it definitely takes me out of the charge arc of the Great Weapon Warriors, and now the only guys left to threaten me are the depleted dual hand weapon warriors. And I'm not feeling too bad about that matchup. Obviously, anything on the flank of a unit, and I dropped the Crown of Command from these knights, so they are no longer stubborn. So obviously, anything on the flank of a unit is not ideal. But these guys are only strength 4. I do have a 2-up armor save, and I will be re-rolling failed, armor save rolls of a 1. I can't ask for a better way for this to go down. If I can get any good fortune in terms of the combat output from my, diminished attacks on the flank, then maybe these guys won't break. We'll see. And even if it's not great, I'm looking at probably having to roll a 6. So I can't be super down in the dumps about this because I just blew up a 250-point unit of Chaos Knights and just ran them over or whatever. But if I have to pick my matchups here, this is definitely the best one I could get for a flank charge on my Knights. Other than that, no combat. I fire the... Sorry, I'm just trying to reconstruct this. One of the cannons, I think, misfires and can't shoot this turn. The handgunners don't really have range on anybody, and like a goof, I take like 2 shots instead of moving them to take more shots later in the game. The Hellblaster Volley Gun, I think, just doesn't put out a ton of wounds this round. And the cannonball from the steam tank just sticks in the ground. I think, actually, that's pretty much how it goes. Like, this is like a non-effective shooting round. Beginning of Warriors of Chaos, turn 2. So the bottom of turn 2, he declares a charge with the Chaos Warriors on the flank of the Inner Circle Knights. I probably could have fled. I have enough space. I do have woods where I would take dangerous terrain tests, but I probably would have gotten away from him. With harmonic convergence up, I felt very confident about not taking any casualties and then just having to deal with his combat res. So here's just here's a shot to see what that looks like. Over here, Anthony goes for broke, charges the Demigryph Knights with the Slaaneshi Chaos Knights with ensorcelled weapons. Takes 1 wound to dangerous terrain charging through the woods, which isn't... I mean, it's demoralizing when you lose a bunch of Bretonnian Knights, and they're half the cost. So now he's going in with only 4 models into my 4 models, except I have 3 times the number of wounds. So I was like, okay, you know, one of us was going to have to pull the trigger here eventually, and I guess he figured might as well deny me the charge bonus. The Chaos Warriors with halberds declare a charge on the steam tank just to lock it down and get it, you know, and take its mobility out of the picture. However, they fail to charge. The Chimera flies up and lands like so to threaten these blocks. This is a good point to remind us that it does not actually have Flaming Breath, although Anthony and I both thought it did. So he's going to make a breath attack this round. It's not tremendously effective, but there you go. So here's what the board looks like after charges and movement. The Great Weapon Warriors continue to advance really aggressively up the middle. He's going to cram them in my face, and that's going to be a really bloody combat. The Hand Weapon and Shield guys are rolling up behind them. The War Shrines, you know, continuing like that. The Hounds didn't rally. They're going to run off the board. That's not really relevant anymore. Here's Anthony firing the Breath Weapon. Here's him successfully getting off the Giver of Glory bound spell in the magic phase on the War Shrine. This allows you to select D3 units that can roll on the Chaos Boon table within 12 inches of the War Shrine. Anthony gets it off. I'm very curious to see what it does. Like, I am not, you know, I'm not being really aggressive about stopping this. I'm kind of letting this go off because I'm curious about it. He only rolls 1. He picks the 1 unit that has a unit champion in close combat and rolls a 5 and 2 2s. So it's going to be 7, I believe, because it gives him a reroll for any one of his saves, attacks, or to wound rolls. Which, you know, given that this is the round for that's not terrible. So here you can see the casualties pulled off as a result of the Flaming Breath attack, like I said. Despite it looking like it was going to be very devastating because of the angle, I just end up making a ton of 5-up saves on the Greatswords. Like, really made like 8 5-up saves on the Greatswords, which was kind of cool. Over here, it does not go well for the Slaanesh Knights. They do 1 wound to me, and then I do 3 wounds to them. Win combat handily, however they stick around. I use the opportunity to combat reform to shift some guys to the other side. This, I don't really think I would do again. I don't know really what I was thinking, because now they're behind the steam tank, and the steam tank's not a big fan of, like, you know, surprise mobility. So I was just trying to get them closer to the battle. Wasn't really necessary at this point. So that's just what I feel about that. Over here, phew, the Hand Weapon and Shield guys cause no wounds to the Inner Circle Knights after you take into account harmonic convergence. This is the first round of an additional combat. Anthony, I believe, has to issue a challenge with the champion, or I issue a challenge and he accepts. My unit champion successfully makes all of his saves and then does 2 wounds, which Anthony does not make either set of saving throws for the champion. So the champion, my Inner Circle Knight Preceptor, kills his Chaos champion in the challenge and overkills him for 2 combat res. I think I maybe cause 1 wound on top of that, and it is actually a draw. Now, Anthony, at this point, remembers that these guys have the Mark of Nurgle and not whatever else we thought they had, mid-corn or whatever. And so I'm not entirely certain that I would have performed quite as well as I did. However, these guys did have Hatred, and they did have the Celestial Hurricanes +1 to hit buff. In any event, it is like a push, and then I use the Combat Reform to bring all of my attacks to bear and pick up a second rank by going from 6 wide to 5 wide. So, okay, I mean, that was the most painless flank charge I could have possibly gotten from this situation, so I'm very happy about that. So here's what the board looks like at the beginning of turn 3, at the top of turn 3, Empire. Yep. The Hurricanum swings around to support the Inner Circle Knights and kind of get out of the way. I don't want it getting like surprise charged by a character or anything. Like I don't want any shenanigans with it, so I just kind of swing it around. The Pistoliers move up to harass the Hand Weapon Shield Chaos Warriors. The brave half of SEAL Team 6 as a detachment nobly throw themselves in front of the block of Great Weapon Chaos Warriors to act as a speed bump. And the rest of my army just kind of pivots and adjusts to give a good kill box for those chaos, you know, when fighting those chaos warriors. Anthony can overrun the... He'll butcher the archers. He can overrun into the detachment of militia and take a flank charge from the greatswords on my turn. He can overrun through the archers into the greatswords and take a flank charge from the militia, and then a frontal charge from the swordsman. Either way, it's really, he's going to have to deal with a lot of bodies, and they're all going to be stubborn with hold the line, hatred, and all that stuff. So, I mean, like, I don't like the idea of engaging with the Great Weapon Chaos Warriors. They're actually very intimidating, but this is the best I can do on this flank. And they're also going to take a round of shooting if they don't engage from the Hellblaster at Ballistic Skill 4. So Anthony's pretty much got shit or get off the pot with them. The steam tank generates 4 steam points, misfires, gets the result where it generates D3 additional steam points and loses D3 wounds, so it gains an additional steam point and loses a wound. It's got 9 wounds left. It sends 3 steam points worth of movement into the Chaos Warriors, so it's going to impact pretty strong, and it has 2 points left to do a breath weapon. Other than that, I'm going to just keep hanging back with the Wizard Lord, and we'll see what happens with that Chimera. I don't really have a solution to it. Once again, I'm kind of a knucklehead with my handgunners and like take 6 crappy shots with them instead of reforming them to take some more shots later. This is a recurring problem with me and move or fire units. I don't really use them very well if I don't deploy them very well. Okay, this is just a shot. So the steam tanks charge into the halberd-wielding Nurgle Chaos Warriors. And here's SEAL Team 6 doing that thing they do, hopping in front of these warriors to redirect and speed bump. Here's just a nice dramatic shot of my right flank. This is post-combat with the steam tank. I'm pretty sure that if I'm jumping to this, it means that I did not have a very impressive magic phase. This is probably one of those, like, you know, 4 power dice magic phases. 3d3 plus d6, strength 6 impact hits, does like 11 wounds or something like that. Does, yeah, I want to say it does like 11 wounds to these Chaos Warriors. Maybe 10 wounds to these Chaos Warriors. That's pretty awesome. They do not do anything back, I believe, this round. So Anthony is steadfast because he has 1 rank of at least 5 models to my 0 ranks and passes his Leadership 8 break test. There you go. The Demigryph Knights butchered the last remaining Chaos Knight and reform. The Inner Circle Knights do not have a good show of it. I did not get any hits between hatred and all that stuff, and I did not have any magic to support them. I did give them the 5-up ward save, so casualties were relatively minimal, despite Anthony putting out a crapload of wounds. I just rolled like 4 ones. It was very bad for those armor saves. And then the 5-up ward picked up some, so I only had 2 casualties. I think between wounds caused and all that, I lost combat here by like 1 and then held with a 7. I'm pretty sure that's actually what happened. Either way, it was either a draw or I lost combat and held, and this was the result. So yeah, this is the bottom of turn 3 going into Warriors of Chaos turn. The Chimera charges at the cannon, and the cannon passes its, terror check and just holds. The Warriors of Chaos here declare a charge on the archers. And in the magic phase, Anthony uses the Giver of Glory ability to give a bunch of buffs to the various unit champions that are within 12 inches of the War Shrine. The unit champion in the hand weapon and shield block gets +1 attack. The unit champion in the halberd block gets +1 strength. And the unit champion within the great weapon block is Dark Apotheosis into a Demon Prince. So that is a Demon Prince of Nurgle with a great weapon and chaos armor who pops out 6 inches from that unit and is magically appeared right in front of my captain and, BSB and that block. That's kind of interesting. This is the strategy behind Anthony's army right now, is that he maximizes the unit champions that he has available, and then rolling 3d6, picking the 2 you like, eventually you're going to roll boxcars. So this changes things. Also, since it didn't happen to a character that's worth victory points as the unit champion, it cost Anthony basically 1 model to do this and no victory points. So that's a pretty big swing. However, given the outcome of the combats on the flanks, I do not think it will make a huge difference. But that is an unbreakable close combat monster now that I have to deal with. The steam tank cannot attack this turn because it's Anthony's turn, so it has no steam points. And he just kind of chops away at it with Chaos Warriors. And this is just to show the buffs that... Oh yeah, these pictures are just to show the number that those champions rolled on the Chaos Boon table. He casts Curse of the Leper on the steam tank, reducing its toughness by 1. It is now toughness 5. And then Anthony throws the rest of his dice at Plague Wind and gets it off irresistibly. However, when he places Plague Wind and attempts to shoot it off, he rolls a misfire, resulting in it scattering in just about that direction you see right there. It clips a few Chaos Warriors, both characters, and drops on and pops out on the other side of the Great Weapon block. That's kind of scary. A toughness test on my guys means I'm picking up 50% of the models that touches, and that thing would have shot straight down my line and killed probably about 15 great swords. I can't remember the exact angle. It's probably going to be like 15 great swords and probably like 5 or 6 of the free company, which is enough to really diminish my ability to repel these Chaos Warriors after they butcher through these archers. The resulting close combats at the end of Anthony's turn, the Inner Circle Knights finally decide they just do not care for this combat anymore, and they break out like crazy, rolling a ton of 5s and 6s to hit, and then translating a high number of them into wounds, and Anthony just doesn't make the saves. The only model that is left when the unit breaks is the Standard Bearer, and the Standard Bearer is auto-killed. I test to hold because I'm kind of like, this is kind of a point of contention. We're not entirely certain if this is the right way to do it, but if the only model left is a Standard Bearer and the unit breaks and he's cut down when the unit flees, even though the unit is a single model, it's still fled. So your guys, I think, have to pursue or test to restrain. So anyway, I tested, I held, and I reformed like so. And the Chimera destroys the cannon. And here's the really interesting thing. We had 2 lucky or unlucky swings in this game. Anthony generating a free Demon Prince. And if you look in front of that Chaos Warrior block, Anthony did not kill all 5 of those skirmishing archers. And when I took the break test for that last remaining one, he decided that this is his day and rolled Snake Eyes, holding up the Chaos Warrior block. So now I really don't know what's going to happen. That's tremendous good fortune on my part. Going into Empire turn 4, the top of turn 4, the Demigryph Knights declare a charge on the diminished Nurgle halberd-wielding warriors engaged with the steam tank. And then the Inner Circle Knights and the Celestial Hurricanum declare charges on the Tzeentch Warriors. Anthony holds and gets hit in both the flank and the rear. The final position of the Hurricanum should have been maximizing on targets, so it's actually a little to the bit to the left of that. Let's see. Following close combat, Anthony does a bunch of wounds to the steam tank. The Demigryphs don't have very many models in base contact, so I can't do much to him. And I think he actually wins this combat. He has a standard. Neither of us have any ranks. He caused like 3 wounds to the tank. I caused 3 wounds to him. He wins combat. It doesn't matter if I break, because I won't lose anything. I'll just have to try to rally the demigryphs. But I actually roll to hold. This is the kind of silly stuff that can happen, because Chaos Warriors have just a phenomenally robust stat line and don't give no fucks, no matter what the odds. Over here, the rest of my army kind of boxes in that Demon Prince. And to buy me some time, the remainder of my chaff, the skirmishing archers, jump in front of the great weapon dudes. So after they kill that, archer, they're going to have to go through yet another layer of shrink wrap. I finally get the message with the handgunners and pivot them so that they can shoot something someday and maybe cause some wounds. This is just a shot to show the position around the Demon Prince. In the magic phase, I do not roll enough dice to dispel Plague Wind. I don't really have any spells that I'm very concerned about getting off for my benefit. I really just want to minimize the bad luck that can happen with Plague Wind. And guess who does not roll a 15 on 4 dice plus 4? It's me. So, Plague Wind scatters through my lines, kills a handful of greatswords, and kills a handful of handgun. Actually, no, pardon me. This doesn't touch the greatswords at all. It goes over the Demon Prince, maybe takes like 1 or 2 greatswords, I can't really remember, and then ends basically right on top of the unit of Free Company Militia and pops out. That's why it is where it is in relation to that the direction of the scatter die. It was on top of the militia and then had to pop out. But yeah, so I lose a bunch of militia right there. So now it's like, oh my god, this is really not good. The Hellblaster Volley Gun opens up on the Chimera and pops that thing like a balloon. The Steam Tank, I think it misfires, loses all of its steam points, or loses every steam point but 1. Takes a wound from the 2d6 strength 2 hits and inflicts on everybody. Nobody else takes a wound, I'm pretty sure. This, I don't think I did. I think this is just this is skipping ahead to show that Anthony declared a charge with the Demon Prince. And yeah, I don't know why this image is here. I think it's actually out of order. Because if you look in the back there, I guess I never took a picture of it. We basically crushed them on the charge. Anthony issues a challenge with the BSB. The BSB slaughters my unit champion and the Inner Circle Knights. However, between the attacks the Inner Circle Knights make, the impact hits from the Hurricanum, and the lack of attacks back to the flank and to the rear and all that jazz, they break on like Snake Eyes or whatever. It's really bad. It might not be Snake Eyes. It might only be like 3, but Anthony bounces it twice. And then they break. And at that point, I believe it's actually game because we're playing Blood and Glory, so it's the loss of the standards. Excuse me. But in any event, they break and then run down. So even if it wasn't Blood and Glory, he's just lost his BSB as general and like a buttload of points. So that's pretty much the game right there, folks. Here's another shot at the long ways on the board. My lesson from the Demon Prince experience is that he is still a champion. He does not have the role forcing him to always issue and accept challenges, because I guess when you get to the top, nobody cares anymore. Like, Demon Princes can't roll on the boon table because they've already, become all that they can be. However, I did, since we're close to the end of the game at this point, I just went for harm minimization and issue challenges, and he butchers my Greatswords unit champion to start with. But yeah, so this is the board at the end of the game. This is a major victory for Empire in a 3,000 point game of Warhammer Fantasy, Empire versus Warriors of Chaos. Hope you guys enjoyed the battle report. I would like to talk about it at great length, but I really don't have a lot of time right now, and I think it's more important just to get the report out and talk about it later, or let Anthony make a video talking about it. I had a great time. It was good to be back in fantasy. Thank God, no more 40k, and I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report. My Tomb King's army is coming along pretty well, but if I want to field 3,000 points, it's got to be Empire, because I only have like 3,000 points of Empire. I am not even close to having 3,000 points of Tomb Kings ready to play, and it wouldn't be a very interesting battle report because none of them would be painted at all, as opposed to like a third of my army painted, or maybe a third is a little generous. Maybe a fifth now that I'm looking at it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the battle report. Yeah, if you have any questions, comments, leave them on the video. Like, subscribe. I do fantasy battle reports more often than not. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one.